Welcome everyone to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake,
And I'm Russ.
and today we are embarking on a very fun 3-part series where we make a project essentially together.
Yeah. So last year we asked you what your biggest barrier to getting started with Origin was, and a lot of people said that they just didn't have the time, which we get. I barely have the time to do a lot of things
Yeah.
that I want to do, but we thought that this project would be a good place to start, and we're doing it in 3 parts, about an hour show each. We're really going to walk you through the nuts and bolts of this whole thing, and if you can dedicate an hour every other week for the next 3 shows, that's a month and a half, that's 3 hours total, you should be able to come out with this candy machine. And we're going to walk you through it really easy, step by step. We're really going to slow it down. We are going to show you some advanced tips also, but not without showing you the basics first.
Yeah. Today we're going to start off with just the things that you have in the box with Origin, but then we'll kind of build off of there.
We'll graduate from there a little bit. Yeah. So,
And we chose this design because it was a really popular design on ShaperHub. It's got a ton of stars. It's been around for a long time, so seems like we should do it on a show.
Yeah, and also shout out to Bo, one of our favorite forum users, for this idea. So thanks, Bo, for the idea of the 3-part series.
Yeah.
Here we go. I guess before we dive into ShaperHub, for anybody who's new to Sessions, welcome to Shaper Sessions. This is our every other week live stream where we teach you about the Shaper system and how to use it in your craft. We're doing this all live, so welcome. We're here right now. If you're joining us on demand, make sure you join us live next time. We do these every other Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Benefits of joining live are that we have a live question and answer at the end of every show. So if you've got a question, write it out in the chat, and Ted will send it to us to answer live at the end of the show. We also have a giveaway.
Yes.
That we do every week.
And in order to get into that giveaway, there's going to be a poll question around the halfway point in our mid-show break. Go ahead and answer that poll question, and we'll put your name in the running.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's get started. We're building this candy machine. Normally we start out with a snazzy, let's cut first, get everybody excited. But we're going to just do this. We're slowing it down. We're just going to do it step by step. We found this project on ShaperHub, so let's show you ShaperHub first so that we're all on the same page there. What do you think?
Perfect.
Nice. All right, Goose, let's swap over to the computer. We got Goose on the switchboard today. Shout out to Goose. If you're not familiar, if you're brand new to our ecosystem, this is ShaperHub. ShaperHub's really cool. This is where you can find a lot of projects that other people have shared to the community for free. We've got thousands of projects at this point. This is also where you'll find the Shaper hardware catalog, which will help you install some of the most popular and impactful hardware without ever having to design a digital template.
Yeah.
All that stuff syncs instantaneously to Origin.
And just the downright complicated ones that you don't want to buy a jig for. It's all in here.
Save you a couple $100 next time you do an architectural hinge.
Yeah.
So, okay. Candy machine. One thing that I love to do is just browse all the projects. You can do that by hitting projects here. This will show you some of the top projects, most recent projects. We can sort and filter here. You also can search. So we know what we want to make. Candy machine. There we go. First thing right here. So this is the first thing you're going to do. You're going to go to ShaperHub. You're going to type in candy machine. You're going to search for that under projects. You'll click on that. Shout out to Wados, by the way, for sharing this project. And now you'll see a couple of things. We've got some photos. We've got some instructions. Ooh, well, no instructions for this one. Good thing we're doing a video. We do have a bill of materials here, though, 3/4 inch plywood, 14 by 40 inch. That's what we've got. We've got even bigger than that, but that's what we've got set up over here. And then if you scroll back up to the top here, we've got files included. Now, this is the important part. These are those free digital templates that Wados has shared. And to get those to your Origin, you could download them, transfer them via USB stick if you don't have Wi-Fi in your shop. But we are so lucky to have Wi-Fi here at Shaper HQ. So all I have to do is hit sync to my files. Watch this. And that file successfully added. That's going to sync automatically to Origin. And so if Jake comes up on the router over here, that's going to be the first thing he sees.
Yep. I don't have any tape down, so it won't show me yet.
That's a good segue into the next step, though. Okay, so we got a couple of steps for this thing. We synced the file. We're going over to Origin. If you've watched a session before, or if you took part in our recent live stream, like getting started training class, you'll know that we go through a couple of steps every time we cut. We scan, we design, and then we cut.
Yep. And it all starts off with making sure that your workspace is prepped. So I have that piece 3/4 ply here. I have a MDF spoil board underneath because we're going to be cutting these things out, and I want to cut through the ply and into the MDF, not into my MFT table. So to keep those things in position, we trust
Double-sided tape.
double-sided tape. We sell this stuff because we searched far and wide for the best double-sided tape for our applications, and we honestly think this is it. So I'm going all the way across. The file itself is what,
36 inches wide.
36 inches wide. So my material is just a little bit wider. And it's about 12 inches tall. So I'm kind of mapping this out in my head. Where's 12? Say around there. And I'll do one more piece down the middle. Now, when we look in the file, in the thumbnail of the file, you can see there's a bunch of little parts, like the knob, like the twist part. We can actually hop over to your
Yeah,
screen.
let's go back over to the computer here. We're looking at these parts over here that are going to end up on the right-hand side. These parts are really small, so we want to make sure that the double-sided tape grabs those parts. We're going to add a little bit more tape over here just on the right-hand side.
All right. So that is on my left-hand side since we're flipping this whole thing. And we'll go nice and dense right here.
Yeah, you don't usually have to go too crazy with the tape, but with the little parts, you definitely want to make sure that you've got enough tape to hold those in place. And this tape is pressure sensitive. So what Jake's going to do after he flips this over is really press down on that tape, and that's really going to help hold all of these parts in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let me help you peel this stuff up here.
Thank you.
My tip for peeling this tape is to kind of push at the edge. Try not to peel. Try to push a little bit. That'll bunch it up just enough that you can really get your fingers on it and then pull it up.
And don't
Pro
trim
tip
your
right
nails
there.
too short.
Yeah, don't trim your nails too short. Trim them short enough for television, but not so short that you can't peel the tape up. There you go.
All right, nice. Boom.
Perfect.
And then we just put all of our body weight on it. Like I said, it's pressure sensitive. If you really, really care and you don't want this thing to move, go ahead and get up on the table.
Stand on it. That's exactly what
Lay
I was
on
going
it?
to say. You really want this stuff to stay still.
Don't want to lose these little parts. But if we do, that's okay. We're gonna go over how you might take a different approach to make sure that doesn't happen. All right, everything seems to be stuck down. We'll throw a clamp there.
Yeah, I got you over here.
Throw one here.
Can I move over just a little bit here?
Yes.
There. That's good.
It's always good to put at least 2 clamps so things don't start moving around on you while you're cutting. Now we're ready for shaper tape.
Yeah, that's a good solid work setup right there.
Yep. You gotta move around and say that's not going anywhere,
That's not going anywhere, folks.
or else it will go somewhere. Okay. We're taping. Notice how we're pulling it out to the desired length, setting both ends down, and then smoothing it out.
One of the things that we really want to get across in the show, tell us if we're glossing over too much, but we do want to make sure that we get across how easy this can be. Right? So we're just laying out the tape. In other sessions, we've gone deeper into pro tips on how to get the absolute best bang for your buck in accuracy with the tape.
Mm-hmm.
But today, we're just laying out some tape. If your Domino tape health meter at the top right corner of Origin shows low tape, add more tape. If it shows full, then you're probably pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it there. Just keeping it simple.
Yeah. And of course, I'm not worried about it being perfectly straight or anything like that. Just getting it down. Scan time. Here on the origin screen, we're going to hit that new scan button. I like to start at the top. That's my personal preference. And just be nice and steady with it.
Jake likes to go left to right in this kind of, I don't know, not quite typewriter pattern, but left to right, right to left. You're skiing slowly down a hill.
Yeah, it's like playing a game of Snake.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Just make sure that you get multiple rows of tape per scan. But again, this is a pretty robust process. If you want the absolute best tips for scanning, check out our Origin Pro Tip session. But as long as you get all of those domino pieces scanned and with a good amount of overlap from image to image, you're going to be good.
And it is totally okay to hover that origin off the edge to make sure you get an image of the bottom of your board. So we want to be able to see what we're cutting. And there we go. Always nice to do a zoom out just to see the world that you just created. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And when you're done with that scan, Origin automatically prompts you down from scan mode into design mode. So let's take a look at that.
So we were here. Now we're down into design. This is where we're going to find that file that Russ just synced.
Yeah, we've got three options. We've got import, create, and grid. Import's where we find files that are synced from ShaperHub or USB. Create is where you would make on-tool designs, which we are not going to do today, but check out some of our other sessions if you're curious about that. And then grid, we also are actually going to skip on today, but this is what you would do if you want a really strong XY reference with Origin. But in the spirit of keeping it simple, you don't strictly need a grid for this project, so we're going to skip it. In part 3 of this series, we're going to come back and we are going to make grids to realign to things that we've already cut. So we'll show you how to grid there.
Cool. Did you sign into yours?
I think I signed into mine. Oh, you know what? I bet we're not on the Wi-Fi.
Pause.
Timeout. Okay. You got the Wi-Fi right there. Let me make sure that we have a USB stick. Where do you think I would find one of those in case we need it? And let me make sure that I'm signed into the right account over here. Thanks, everybody, for bearing with us. But this is our first mistake of the day. Make sure that you're synced up on all your accounts. What do you say? Is it connecting? Yeah. Goose, why don't you throw a USB stick down here?
I have one right over here.
You do? Okay, perfect. So if you don't have Wi-Fi in your shop, this is what you're going to do. We'll get to show that kind of download process. We'll throw that file on the USB stick and pop it over onto Origin. We love being connected to Wi-Fi because that's how you know when all of our free system updates come up. So we do these about once a year where we add some features to Origin, try to improve the quality of life using this tool a little bit. But it totally works off of Wi-Fi, 100%. You just need a USB stick to transfer your files.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. USB. And this comes in the box. The new ones are really snazzy. They actually work both with USB-A and with USB-C. Now, all I'm doing here is I'm downloading these project files by hitting download all files right here. You can see that's going to download up here. Now, Goose, navigate away from the screen if you don't mind, because I don't want to blow out any of the secret stuff, okay?
I love this too because if you're going to a job site or whatever it may be, going to the cabin where you don't have Wi-Fi, but you still want to cut a project, throw it on USB, and you're good to go.
Middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Didn't we do that video where Sam cut a national park sign in the
Yes.
middle of the woods?
Yeah.
That was fun.
We also had another one years ago where somebody cut a sign out in the woods and had Origin strapped to a snowmobile.
Nice. I love that. I'd love to see their portability set up. You know, how do they connect the thing to the snowmobile?
Tie downs?
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
I mean, in the sustainer, of course. Okay.
Here we go.
So, back into import, under the USB tab at the top, we have the Candy Machine file. All right, so it is still connected to Origin. So you see, as I turn the tool, the file is turning with me. So it's my job to eyeball this thing just right.
And again, doesn't have to be perfect.
I say just right, but like, yeah, just making sure that it's on my material.
Yeah. Making sure the grain is loosely lined up, which is more of an aesthetic thing, right?
Tap that green button, and that's locked in.
That's locked in. Let's move Origin around. Yeah, there you go.
At this point, we could turn the tool off, put it on a shelf, come back tomorrow, and this will still be here. As long as our tape hasn't moved, it knows exactly where we are.
Awesome. Let's look at all the parts that we're looking at on the screen there and kind of break these out in relation to the big build.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one right up here in the middle is actually the plexiglass or acrylic part that we're going to cut on our next show. We have these long pieces here that are the strips along the side that get glued to this. And this is the very back. This kind of creates the void that holds the candy.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at that 4-piece sandwich here on the front cam. We got that acrylic. We've got the 2 pieces on the side. You can't see because it's behind a bunch of Skittles right now, but that piece with a little bit of clearance is in the middle behind it. And then, of course, we've got that solid back.
Yep. And the smaller pieces where we made that double-sided tape really dense underneath our ply are right here.
Back to the Origin Cam Goose.
The turnstile, the knob, the top with the magnet holes, and the base with the pocket.
So we're going to cover a bunch of cut types today. We're going to cover outside cuts. We're going to cover a pocket cut. We're going to cover helixing, which all might just be mumbo-jumbo words to you right now, which is okay. It's all to say that we're going to cover that. And as long as you just follow along, you'll be able to cut this candy machine.
Speaking of cut, I want to run through the settings real quick.
Yeah, so we've got design mode all set. We've got our project imported. Now we're ready to move down to cut mode. And before we get started, we're just going to run through the settings top to bottom. That one is depth. So this top setting, we're going to be changing a lot during the show. This is going to tell us the depth that we're cutting per pass, or if we have auto pass on, it's going to tell us the final depth that we're going to eventually. Don't mind so much about auto pass right now. We'll explain that more in a minute. The next one is the type of cut. We're going to be working mostly with outside cuts today, but we also have inside cuts available, pocketing cuts available, online cuts available, and then guidelines, which are uncuttable lines that you might use for reference text or something like that. Okay, moving down, we've got offsets. Offsets are how you tune the fit with Origin. So if you use a positive offset, that's going to leave more material whenever you're cutting. If you use a negative offset, that's going to remove extra material anytime you're cutting.
I just put a 0.03 roughing offset because that's what we're going to start with.
Nice. Next down is our router bit diameter. So Origin automatically adapts to whatever router bit diameter you're using. And we're using a 1/4 inch router bit for most of the cutting today. The next one down is Z-Touch. This is how Origin knows where the material is relative to the end of that router bit that you're using so that it can cut to the right depth. That's a lot of words. The important thing is to Z-Touch anytime you take the spindle in or out of Origin.
Yeah, good rule of thumb. Anytime you loosen that bolt on the side, Z-Touch.
Z-Touch.
Even if you didn't take the bit in or out, just a good practice.
Nice. And then the last one on the menu is speeds. Now, there's 2 speeds. There's your plunge speed and your auto speed. The plunge speed is how quickly Origin plunges down in the Z-axis. It also determines how long it takes to ramp down with auto pass. And then that auto speed determines how quickly Origin moves when you have the green button held down for auto mode, or if you have auto lock engaged, where Origin travels on its own, aiming for that auto speed.
Yeah, I'm going to be using that primarily in the corners. Anytime the cut path goes a 90-degree turn, I'm going to pause, hold that green button, to auto around the corner.
Nice. So we're going to do 3 styles of cut today for these big pieces. The first thing we're going to show you is just how to do this with the stuff that comes in your box with Origin, with the stock 1/4 inch router bit, and without using AutoPass. So the very most basic way to do it. Next, we're going to show you how to keep it going with that 1/4 inch router bit, but turning on AutoPass. It's a little bit more complex, but gives you a little bit more freedom in just kind of, meditating while you're cutting and not having to worry about plugging in every single step of the depth. So AutoPass is really handy for that. We're going to show you that second. And then third, we've got a special accessory router bit that we're going to show you that we've used before on the show. It's the 5mm O-Flute router bit. And basically the deal here is this router bit's like $60 or something like that. Spend $60. It cuts a little bit faster in plywood than the 1/4 inch router bit. So spend $60, save a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Which piece should we start with?
I think keeping it simple, I would even go with the just the plain rectangular piece.
All right.
So, okay, we've scanned, we've designed, which is basically just plunking down this template on our workspace. We're ready to cut. We've shown you what all the options are, and now Jake's going to go into the nuts and bolts of the options that he's going to use for this specific cut.
So I already Z-touched. I have my 1/4 inch bit in there. My first cut depth is going to be a 1/4 inch. We have a nice preset list. Oops. A nice preset list over here to make this nice and easy. 1/4 inch with a 0.03 roughing offset. And my spindle speed is going to be 4.
Nice. Now, okay, before we get started, you're doing a 1/4 inch why? Because you're going a 1/4 inch down per pass, right?
Exactly. General rule of thumb is always whatever the diameter of your bit is should be the max depth per pass. Depending on the bit geometry, that can kind of get pushed around, but for the stock bit that comes in the tool, that's what we recommend.
Nice. So you're going to go down a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, and then 3/4 of an inch, all with this roughing offset, which is leaving more material around the final dimensions of the part. And then at final depth, you're going to take that roughing offset off to bring you right up to those final dimensions at the full depth.
That's it.
I've got one more request.
Yes.
We never mess up on this show. I mean, we already messed up once because the Wi-Fi was down.
Yeah.
But I would love to show what it looks like when you retract, when you go off the path.
Of course.
So let's start with this 1/4 inch depth pass, roughing offset. Maybe make a few mistakes on this one, show folks what it looks like, and then we can just cruise through the last couple of passes.
Sounds good.
What do you say? Cool.
Ready, set.
Ready, set. Nice. Now, the way Origin works is as long as you keep that dot somewhere in that circle, it is going to automatically correct for you and keep you right on that dotted line, which represents the toolpath that you're trying to follow. If that dot leaves the circle, let's do that again just a little more slowly. Origin will automatically retract, which saves your cut. So if you leave that circle at any time, don't worry, you're safe. This is why we advise a roughing offset before you do a finishing pass, just in case when you make these heavier roughing cuts, you kind of lose control a little bit because, it is driving around a plunge router at the end of the day. We recommend you use that roughing offset. Then we're going to come back with that finishing offset, 0-inch finishing offset for our finishing pass. Jake's going to show you how taking that last finishing pass is going to clean up any little inconsistencies that you get from mistakes or retractions or overall jutteriness as you're doing these heavier passes. It's totally okay to make retractions with Origin. We don't show it on the show that much, just because we've got a lot of practice, I guess I would say. The more practice you get, the better you'll get at this. But it's totally okay when you're starting out. I would even say, go ahead and make some mistakes on purpose, just to see what it feels like. All right, so Jake just popped down to that 1/2 inch routing depth, and he's gonna probably just cruise along on this one. You can see that the circle turns green as he's going around those corners. That's because he's pressing the green button and using auto mode to go around those corners. Corners are one of the 2 cases where I really love using auto mode. because it really smooths out the experience going around the corners. You just hold origin still and it automatically will drive that spindle as far as it can go as long as you're within the circle. So it's not going to drive itself out of that corrective range, but it is going to drive itself as far as it can go. And we love using that in the corners because it's a pretty sharp change of direction. So it can be really helpful to hold origin steady and hold down that green button to engage auto mode to go around there. Now, last but not least, the 3/4 inch roughing pass. So we'll do one more roughing pass at 3/4 inch depth. Still got that 0.03 inch positive buffer. And you can see a little bit of space. That's the 0.3 inches between the blue cut path that Jake's taking and that light black line, which is the template that he's eventually cutting up to. Let's go back to that origin screen here. You can see the difference between the blue path and that darker line just to the left of Jake, which is the digital template that he's going to go up to once he has that 0 inch offset on the finishing pass. And again, the more practice you get, the smoother you're going to be. It's not so much about keeping the dot exactly in the center of the crosshairs, it's more about driving smoothly. That dot can be anywhere inside that circle. As long as you're smooth, the smoother the better. And we recommend vacuuming out the sawdust out of there before you go into your finishing pass for best results. Before we do that finishing pass, let's see if we can zoom in and even see those mistakes from that first pass. Can you see those on the bench cam maybe? Try to point those out. We had one on the side.
There's one here. It came out here, and it came out here in the corners.
Yeah, you can see that over there.
Yeah. Pretty quickly pulls, compared to a normal router where you'd go across the board. It is pretty fast retraction. I always like to double check too that I can see my spoil board. I did in fact cut to the right depth. I think this plywood's actually less than 3/4, but that's okay. That's why we have a spoil board. All right. Changing this to 0.
Nice, and you could see that dotted line come in just a little bit. So that's, again, removing more material the closer you go to 0, and then in the negative direction it would remove even more material. So Jake's doing this just at full depth, and you can see how much less material he's removing. So when he was doing those full slots, it was 1/4 inch wide by 1/4 inch deep. Now he's doing 3/4 inch deep, but only 0.03 inches wide, which is much, much less material to remove. So it's much less material to push against, which is going to result in a much smoother cut. Also, because that slot's all cut away, he's got much better chip clearance, so that sawdust is going to be sucked up out of the slot much more easily, which is also going to give a smoother, quicker result.
All right.
Nice. There's one. So you can see the little zings in there where you got those retractions. That's why we do a roughing pass before we do a finishing pass. Yeah. So in case a roughing pass is a heavier cut, so it's, a little less controlled.
Yeah.
And in case you leave that circle, you want to have a little bit of a buffer for that retraction. And then on that finish pass, that's where you're going to keep it nice and smooth all the way around. Even if you do make a mistake on the finish pass, usually it's okay. The smoother, the better.
Yeah, I definitely slow down a bit. Think in your mind, this is my finish quality edge. So we're trying to, do as little sanding as we can, right?
But that's one done. And that's how I would do it with everything in the box. Origin, fresh out of the box, 1/4 inch router bit.
Yep.
Okay, now hang on. We're going to come back
Yes.
to cut the rest of these parts with different processes, right? We're going to show you not only AutoPass, we're going to show you this 5mm O-flute router bit. We're going to show you pocketing. We're going to show you online cuts. We're going to show you Helix mode. We're going to show you all this stuff. But first, a couple of announcements. Okay, this is where the poll question comes up. And bear with me here. Goose, let me know when that's up, by the way. It's kind of a lengthy poll question today, but it
Yes.
has short answers, okay? So I'm going to read this off. The question is, because we've got this awesome Shaper Hub project, we want to know what motivates you to share projects on Shaper Hub, okay? And we've got 4 answers. A, I love this community so much. It's so personally rewarding to share projects on Shaper Hub. I just love it. B, I would share more on Shaper Hub if it were easier to do so. C, I would share more on Shaper Hub if there were some way that I could maybe make some money off of it. Or D, other. And if you've got an other answer, please just, tell us more.
Yeah.
Cool. So enter that poll question, and we're going to spin the wheel for that giveaway during the Q&A.
Cool. While that is being filled out,
We've got
some pretty cool things
some
happening.
excitement. We mentioned this on the last show, but we have Masterclass Live Round 2 coming up at the Florida School of Woodwork, and we've got just a few seats left. So it's 2 weeks in. We've got just a few seats left out of the 60-seat class. Let me go ahead and pull that up on the laptop here so we can show this off. Yeah, Goose, can we go back to the laptop? All right. Shaper Masterclass Live, March 15th and 16th at the Florida School of Woodwork in Tampa, Florida. We've got 3 awesome instructors. We've got Eric Curtis, who's going to be teaching a class on advanced mortise and tenons, angled mortise and tenons. We've got Larissa Huff, who's going to teach hot pipe steam bending. And we've got Frank Straza, who's going to be teaching hand-cut marquetry. And Jake, you were just on the phone with Frank the other day. I mean, is that exciting or what?
Very exciting.
This
Yeah.
is, for anybody who was plugged into the last Masterclass Live that we did, this one's going to be even more hands-on, which we're so excited for. All right, back to the laptop. Again, March 15th and 16th in Tampa, Florida. Can I get that laptop, Goose? There we go. March 15th, 16th in Tampa, Florida. We got some pictures from the last Masterclass Live event that we did. Okay, tickets and details. This is hosted by the Florida School of Woodwork. To purchase tickets, you're going to follow this link, and that'll actually take you to the page on the Florida School of Woodwork website where you can buy those. Scrolling back up a little bit, details, max 60 tickets, and those are going to be 20 people per class rotating. So every class with Frank is going to have 20 people in it, and then those 20 people will go to Eric. Then those 20 people will go to Larissa. We also have, scrolling down for the full agenda, we've got 2-hour Origin Fundamentals class the day before with me and Jake. We'll both be there. We're going to be teaching, this is backwards, Advanced Origin Fundamentals. We've got multiple levels of Origin Fundamentals that we're teaching on Friday. We're going to teach the advanced segment. We've got a couple other folks who are pitching in on that. Again, marquetry, steam bending, joinery with Eric Curtis. Then back to the laptop, please. We've got welcome reception on Friday with a party and drinks. On Saturday, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And this isn't just going to be PB&J sandwiches. We're looking at like food trucks and stuff, so it's going to be legit. And $100 credit to the Shaper store, along with swag, TBD swag. Let us know what swag you want. $100 credit to the Shaper store. So that's like basically knocking $100 off of that ticket price.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all great. Make sure you sign up if you haven't. We would love to see you there. And if you've already signed up,
Can't wait to see you.
can't wait to see you, and check your inbox for an
yes.
email. In the next week or so, we're going to have more details for you on, we've got a block of hotel rooms that we're working on. We've got more info on what to expect for the event, all that stuff. Keep an eye out in your inbox.
Cool.
Okay.
Next, more info to come on this.
Yeah,
But,
we're spilling the beans on this one a little bit, but you're our loyal viewers. Okay?
Exactly.
So
You might have remembered, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, we did a fun challenge.
The Shaper Box Challenge.
Yep. and we're bringing that back. We're going to do it again this year. First prize is $1,000 to the Shaper store,
Yeah.
and
You can buy a lot of routers with that.
a lot of router bits. More info to come. Keep your eye out for emails and social medias, and
Yeah. But feel free to get started on your box. And make sure you take some nice documentation
That's
along the way. We love seeing the
critically
documentation.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, more info soon on that.
You know, in school, when the teacher said show your work or you didn't pass, show your work.
That sounds foreboding. Holy smokes. I still have nightmares about high school calculus. Okay. Masterclass Live, box challenge. I think we can pull that poll question down. Let's show our shop tour of the week. This one comes in from Steven. So, Steven, thanks for sending your shop tour. If you would like your shop to be featured on Shaper Sessions, send it to us, sessions@shapertools.com. 3-ish minute video, landscape mode, narrated. I mean, this is a perfect example of a video. So let's pull it up. We love to see this stuff.
This is the rear entrance to my shop. We put this addition on the house about 7 or 8 years ago. It was originally supposed to be a garage for a camper that we had, but that didn't last very long once I started doing the woodworking. Here is Cooper, my constant companion in the shop. He loves being in here with me. If I turn to the left, there's the shaper and the station, workstation, some supports. I use these Craig clamps that are really nice to use on things that are deep, like if you're working on a drawer or something that's not just flat. So that's something that you may want to give a try too. I've got my plate and the trace hanging up here. Of course, if I'm working in here for a while, I do have a TV with Bluetooth headphones I can listen to while I'm working. There is a closet over there that I will open up and have you take a look at it a little bit. Here I have my planer on wheels so I can move it into a good working position. Behind that, my bandsaw. The bandsaw is stationary, and my saw stop table is also stationary. Here's a table that I'm just finishing up working on. That'll be going into the house probably tomorrow. Over here I have my drill press and some clamps that hang from up there to get them out of the way. Here I've got a little grinding machine and a vise, some of my hand tools and accessories here. All of those little brackets were made by me to hold everything. And kind of my main workbench here. Down here I have a small tabletop sander grinder and a sharpening station, and we have a mortising machine. I don't use real often, but it does come in handy. Big garage door. I can move projects in and out really easily. I can move the equipment out onto that patio area in front of it when the weather's nice. Bring the lumber in here. I have a 1938 drum sander, so that comes in really handy. And here is my planer. It's a 13-inch planer. Dust collection in the back. You'll notice the yellow gates on a lot of the equipment. They're all automated. Anytime I turn a machine on, it opens the correct gate and turns on the suction for me. Here is my belt sander. My 220 outlets are on this side of the wall, so anything that requires 220, which is the belt sander, the table saw, and the planer, all plug in here. Here are the drawers for that table that was over there just a moment ago. This was my first attempt at doing dovetails with the shaper, and I was very pleased with the results. So not a real big place, 26 by 16, a closet off to the side that has some shelving in it that I keep some jigs and other supplies in, and you can see some sheet goods in the corner over here and other boards over in that corner. That's pretty much it for me. Thanks.
We need a shop dog.
So jealous of the shop dog.
We need a shop dog. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your shop with us. Reminder, everybody whose shop tour gets played on Sessions, we're going to send you something nice.
Yeah.
So, not to spill the beans too much on what it is, but something nice. All right. Should we get into the next couple of cuts?
Yes, we still got a lot of cutting to do.
Okay, so we got the next thing coming up is we're going to use the 1/4" router bit that comes stock with Origin with AutoPass. And AutoPass is going to let us kind of automate that process of going down depth by depth and then changing that finishing pass offset.
We want to pop over here now to these guys?
I think one of those would be perfect.
Yeah. So we're going to cut these two pieces, or at least one of them.
Let's cut one of them to
Yeah.
start.
So into the cut. Now we're looking at these numbers over here as our final, or as we like to call them, global units. So our global offset, or final offset, will be 0.
Our final offset is going to be right on that line.
And our final depth is 3/4 of an inch.
Nice.
Go ahead and turn that auto pass on. You can see it automatically populates 4 passes.
Let's see what those are.
Open that up. Number 1 is coming in at 1/4 inch deep with a 0.025 offset, roughing offset. Then it ramps down to 1/2 inch, ramps down to 3/4 of an inch, stays at 3/4 of an inch, and ramps over to 0.
Nice. And one thing that AutoPass does, which is cool, is if you're going around and again you make a mistake, it remembers how deep you were, how far around that AutoPass path you were. So let's say maybe you're on the second pass. Let's go ahead and make kind of a deliberate mistake
'Kay.
on that second pass and show everybody what that's like.
Cool.
Okay?
Also on the fly, if I wanted to, I can adjust the number of passes depending on what bit I'm using or depending on the material. But I'm happy with this
Awesome.
as it is.
Let's let it rip. So you're going to notice compared to the last cut that Jake did, Origin does not plunge straight down. It ramps actually between passes. As you're starting, it'll ramp into this first pass. As Jake's going around this first pass, Origin's going to work exactly the same as it did with the last piece without AutoPass. It keeps you right on that line. The difference here with what you're looking at is you can see the gray path, which is the total area that Origin's going to cut, is a little bit wider than last time because it's got that last finishing pass already baked in. So it knows, hey, you're going to go ahead and eventually come around 4 times and you're going to cut that all the way in to that template line. And what just happened there is Jake automatically ramped down to the second pass. That's what AutoPass does. And he lost it. If he returns to that dotted line, you can see that circle pop up right there, or that dot. If you plunge back on that dot, you can see at the top of Origin screen, Jake is still on pass 2 of 4. So it's down at about a 1/2 inch depth right now, on his way to that 3/4 inch depth thickness. If you look over on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see in parentheses the offset 0.025. That's the AutoPass roughing offset. It's in parentheses because it's not the final offset that Jake's going to. Remember, we set the final offset outside of that AutoPass dialog. That's going to be 0 inches, and that's going to be between pass 3 and 4 that Origin moves over and takes that last little offset out. You can see Jake's driving quickly but smoothly. It's all about smoothness with Origin, and the best way to tell that you're doing a good job is, you want the spindle to sound healthy, just a nice hum like we've got here. You don't want to smell smoke or burning in any way. That means that you are probably trying to take off too much material, or that your spindle is moving too fast relative to the speed with which you're pushing Origin. And now here we go into that finishing pass. So you can see once Jake hit that dot that said, all right, you're starting your finishing pass, Origin just moved over that last little bit, and Jake's taken off the last bit up to that template line. And all of this is done automatically, or I should say it's calculated automatically, it's preset. It can be adapted if you want to change those parameters, but AutoPass calculates a lot of that stuff for you. And Jake doesn't have to go in and punch that depth in every single time, or punch that offset in every single time he wants to change it. That's all done for him, which is pretty cool. Good time saver. If you're interested in trying AutoPass, but you don't have it on your machine yet, one thing to note is that everyone has access to a free 2-week trial of AutoPass. So if you're doing this project and you want to try AutoPass, you can activate that trial just on your Shaper Origin. That's under the Extensions tab. Nice.
Sweet.
I like that.
I love AutoPass.
You know, I forgot to ask whether we had the O flute bit ready. You got one? Nice. I knew it. I knew you were set.
Okay, on to, let's kick it up a notch.
Let's kick it up a notch. Well, what are we going to do? Paint flames on the side of this thing?
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be sweet.
All right, we're swapping over to the 5mm O flute bit. Now, typically, when we say O flute, we think cutting plastics, cutting brass, things like that. We found that this particular bit kind of crushes it at cutting sheet goods.
Something about it.
Something about the geometry of it.
It's got this 8mm shank, so it's a lot more sturdy. It's got just a 20mm cut length, so it's exactly the right length for 19mm sheet goods or 3/4 inch sheet goods. And it, with that O flute, it has a lot of chip clearance, really good chip clearance, and it's just awesome for plywoods like this. Now, our typical rule of thumb, if you're just starting out, is with a 1/4 inch router bit, you would plunge a 1/4 inch deep. With a 5mm router bit, you would, according to our typical instructions, plunge 5mm deep. But in this case, we're actually going to modify those AutoPass settings. This is advanced mode here. We're going to modify those AutoPass settings to go 3/8 of an inch deep per pass. So we're going to do this in 3 passes, 2 roughing passes and 1 finishing pass, instead of 4 passes like we did with the 1/4 inch router bit.
Exactly. First things first, go ahead and tell the tool that you're changing the bit size to 5mm. Let it Z-touch. Bingo, there we go. And should we cut the mating part over here?
Yeah, let's cut that other one.
Okay. So, AutoPass automatically populates 5 different passes. I'm just going to use the plus minus buttons at the bottom to bring it down to 3.
And it automatically calculates all those equal depths for you.
Yeah.
Really slick.
That feels good. 3/8. Sorry.
Yeah, 3/8.
3/8.
0.02 inches
1/4.
offset, that says. And you're going down to 3/4 with a final offset of 0.
Sweet.
Nice.
Let's get into it. I might move a little faster on this one.
Okay, go for it.
So, just so everyone's aware, I have my spindle speed set to 5 on this particular bit.
Cool. All right, I should have set the stopwatch. The cool thing about the narrower bit, since it's so stable on that 8mm shank, is you're actually removing less material for the same amount of depth because you're taking less width, and so you're pushing against less material, and Origin is going to feel like it's moving smoother. I think that's the magic of this 5mm router bit, even in deep cuts in sheet goods. Because it's so much narrower than a 1/4 inch bit, or especially compared to an 8mm bit, it feels like it's just cruising. You might feel a similar phenomenon if you're using an 1/8 inch router bit compared to a 1/4 inch router bit for brass. The 1/8 inch router bit's going to feel like it's removing so much less material because it is, and therefore is much easier to move Origin around smoothly. So there you go. You can see Origin automatically ramping down to that final depth pass for this. So Jake's at full 3/4 inch depth. He's still got that 0.02 inch offset, and yeah, he's cruising. Still using auto in those corners as well. Now as Jake comes down the side, look again for that approaching finish pass icon. Here it is, and now it's gonna zing right over there, right up to the edge, and it's removing that last 0.02. You might wonder why 0.02 for this one compared to 0.025 for the last one. That's because AutoPass automatically calculates that offset for you based on the diameter of your router bit. So 5 millimeters is about 0.2 inches, and we take 10% of that. A 1/4 inch router bit obviously is 0.25 inches, and we take about 10% of that. If you were using, I don't know, let's say a 1/2 inch router bit, AutoPass would automatically calculate 10% of that, or a 0.05 inch automatic roughing offset. You can modify that roughing offset if you'd like just by tapping on that field in AutoPass itself. Of course, you can set it to close to whatever you like. There is an upper limit on it, but close to whatever you'd like.
Sweet.
Nice. So those are kind of our 3 fundamental ways of doing outside cuts. Those were all outside cuts. That's going to enable you to cut pretty much every part on this out from the plywood. But to make successful parts that are integrated into this whole thing, you've got a couple more features that you need to add. So we're going to show you next. We've got to cut at least 2 more parts before I feel like people are, ready to be set free on this thing.
Yeah.
We want to cut this bottom piece, which has both a pocket and a chamfer built in. And then we're also going to cut this this kind of crescent-shaped, we'll call it the candy bucket
Yeah.
in
Nice.
here, because that has a hole that can helix, and we're going to fit that hole to the dowel that goes in it. So we're going to use offsets to fine-tune that hole if we need to. We may not even need to use offsets there, but we can illustrate.
Yeah.
So what do you say we go ahead and, which one do you want to cut first?
Let's start with the pocket.
The pocket? Okay, so we got this pocket here. How's that look on screen?
It looks like a grayed out area with hash marks all over it. That means anywhere in this hashed gray area, I can plunge and I can start my pocket. So 0.375 is going to be my first. I want to think about my final offset before I get too into it, because I want to leave a little bit of a surface down there.
I think just halfway down is fine. You want to just do 0.375? Or
Okay.
you want to go deeper?
We can go 0.375. Yeah, I think that'll be good.
Okay, cool. Let's, Goose is requesting that we show this off closer on the camera. Good idea, Goose. Thank you. There we go. I think that's on perfect. So we're going to be cutting that pocket down there. We're not going to be cutting it quite that deep, but that's what we're going to cut out here, that big rectangular cleared out area. Nice.
Can't tell you how hard it is not to eat Skittles during the show.
Don't tempt me.
All right, so I'm going to start off at 0.375. I like to start in the middle of my pocket and move out in a clockwise fashion. Some others like to start on the outside and work your way in a counterclockwise fashion. Really depends on what you're more comfortable with, but as long as you're going against the direction of the bit, that is the most important part. And if you're not, if you accidentally climb cut, Origin, you'll feel it. Origin will feel like it's moving along for you.
Just like any other router.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing to remember if you're just getting started, I would say start in the middle, move clockwise, spiraling outward.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll just keep this bit in there too.
Yeah, great. So pocketing mode allows you to rough out these big areas. In the middle of this pocket, Origin is going to work just like a plunge router, and you can see that that dot, which represents our spindle, is locked right in the center of that circle. Now, as Jake comes up on the edge of this pocket, that's when Origin's compensation range is going to kick in, and that dot is going to start to float to prevent Jake from going past the bounds of the pocket. You can see that dot floating right there to bring Jake right up against that line. Same thing down here. If Jake left the bounds of that pocket, bam, Origin retracts again to save your work. Pockets have an automatic roughing offset built into them because they are a rougher type of cut. we always recommend that you do a pocketing cut first and then an inside cut second. And that inside cut is going to work just like our roughing and finishing passes that we did on the outside cuts to bring you right up to the inside of that template line. So he's got that pocket all cut. Now he can go over to the left-hand side, change that cut type to an inside cut, and just follow that path around. And this is working the same as that outside cut. You may notice that Jake's moving clockwise instead of counterclockwise on this one. The thing to remember is to just follow the dotted line in the direction that it's moving. That's a simple way to remember to cut the right direction, and that prevents you from, again, like Jake mentioned, accidentally climb cutting, which is maybe going to let the router run away from you a little bit, just like it would on a router table or with a plunge router.
Okay.
We got that.
Should we cut the whole base out, or we want to swap?
Let's do the chamfer. I think we do the chamfer next.
I like that.
Because it's a small part. So because this is a small part, we put a lot of tape on this. You can never be too safe, though. I would say the Russ correct way to do it is to cut all the little features first and then cut the part free. You know, that's the way that I would recommend to pretty much anybody. Just because it's safer. I think we're pretty safe with this setup. We got a lot of tape on there. But I would hate to cut that and then have the thing come loose and then have to reset it up with a new grid. So we're going to go ahead and swap to this 90-degree engraving bit and use this for the chamfer. Now we're using this 90-degree engraving bit. Why are we even using this 90-degree engraving bit? Just because I think 45 degrees is a nicer chamfer,
Yeah.
really.
You, of course, could do this with the stock 60-degree engraving bit. Just have a steeper chamfer.
Right, that's the point, is that you could do this with the things that come in the box with Origin. You're just going to have a little bit steeper of a wall.
Yeah. I am using an engraving bit, so it's going to prompt me when I change the bit size to actually do a manual Z-touch,
Which you could do, yep.
which means I'm going to bring down the cutter manually.
Do you think we could show that on that far camera over there?
Maybe.
You see that one in the corner? That's what I'm aiming for.
Oh, not great, but
Yeah, not too good. Yeah, try moving it closer. See the spindle? Move the spindle up and down. The point is just that Jake's moving that spindle up and down by hand with the green and red buttons until the tip of that engraving bit just touches the surface. Pretty dark in there. We need a new light.
okay. I hit 0, so now I've manually set my 0. Reason
Awesome.
for that is sometimes engraving bits like to poke into our material
Because
during
they're sharp.
Z-touch because they're sharp. So if you want a true 0, do a manual one.
Nice. And we are going to do an online cut for this one.
No, we can keep it inside.
You want to keep it inside?
Here's my thought. 0.02 will just kind of offset us ever so slightly from the line.
Okay.
Tell me otherwise.
No, that's great.
Okay.
No, we're going
You
to... Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's like advanced mode. It's like advanced mode. You could do an online cut, which would give you a chamfer that goes right down to that line at the center. But what Jake's saying is also technically more correct, which is that engraving bit does have a tiny, tiny, tiny little flat spot on the end. And so he's trying to avoid getting any little flats in the chamfer,
Yeah,
which is
just at the bottom of your
worthwhile,
chamfer.
worthwhile pursuit.
As for the depth, it's not a super deep 45 degree, so I'm going to do something like 0.12.
Yeah.
Not quite an eighth of an inch, but very close. I'm just going to do this in one pass.
Okay, great. Wait, which did you end up with? The inside cut or the online cut?
Inside cut.
Okay.
Should I do half and half?
No. This is fine.
Okay.
This is great. If you follow the settings that are on Jake's screen, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Don't let the small diameter get to you.
No. It's so small, it's imperceptible.
Okay, perfect. Let it rip. Yeah, let it rip. Who says we haven't demoed how the candy machine works yet, Jake? It's because we don't want to smack our lips on camera. Just show how it works. Okay, Goose says just show how it works. Don't eat it, just show how it works. We could do that. What do you think?
I don't know if I can do that.
Better late than never, right? Should we show how this thing works?
Yeah.
All right. These are going to spill all over the place. Here, let's show it off on that bench cam over there. Can you guys see that? Let's get that bench cam action, Goose. There we go. Okay.
Which one are you at? There you go.
All right, you see that? Yeah. Nice. Can you do it with your other hand so it's not, or like turn the other direction? Yeah, there you go. Oh, that was sad. Hey, there we go.
All right.
Okay. Guys, this is a serious woodworking show.
This is
okay?
fine. This is cool. You want to show off that chamfer
Yeah,
in
please.
this camera? Maybe? Yeah. Nice.
I like that. So we can go ahead and cut the outside
Yes.
of that out back to that 5mm bit. We've got one more outside cut. Then we're going to show you how to helix some holes, and then you'll have all the skills that you need to cut all this flat stuff. See how much time we have after this one. How are we doing?
505.
5:05? We're about an hour in. Okay, 2 more cuts.
Back to the 5 mil.
Always Z-touch.
Change that bit size. You can do an automatic for this one. And let's buzz through this. Back to auto pass. Don't need 8 passes. Just need 3.
Back to 3. Nice. Cool. Yeah, geez, Goose, thanks for the reminder. Show how the thing works. And if you need an excuse to make this, I mean, obviously it's like great for kids, great for grandkids, great for your coworkers. I don't know, Valentine's Day's coming up. Engrave a heart on the front of this thing. You could even put those little candy hearts in it. Man, wouldn't that be sweet? Jake's like, no way. I'd be dead. Nice. One thing to keep note of that I think Jake just kind of ran into right there is that if you pocket out a big area with Origin and you are doing an outside cut coming up to it, you may feel that kind of loose area as you come across it doing that other outside cut. So just something to be wary of. That's why we have this blue cut history on here so that you can know where you've already cut, so you can expect where that cut might be a little bit looser.
Nice.
Nice.
That part's ready to come out.
All right. And we got
Let's-
one more.
Up to the, what do we call it?
We're calling it, I don't know, it's like a crescent. It looks like a partial moon to me, you know?
And it is, we have that center cut there, which actually does not need to be a pocket for our purposes.
Yeah, let's make that an inside cut. And we're going to make that a helixing inside cut. So when your cut path fits entirely within Origin's corrective range, that helix button pops up. You can turn that button on, and that's going to let Jake do this all just in one pass. Origin's going to automatically spiral down to that final depth. And what do we want that depth to be?
Say ½ inch.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
just enough for the dowel to fit. And I'm going to cut it straight to a 0-inch offset too.
Great. Let's see how it fits.
And all I got to do is hold still.
Dowel.
Dowel. That is
That's pretty good.
kind of perfect.
Let's show what tuning with offsets is like.
It's a,
So-
it's a squeaky fit. We want a
I'm going to leave a little room for glue.
piston fit. Yeah.
Yeah, how about that? So the way that I always remember this is a negative offset removes extra material, and we only want just a little bit here. So what do you say, Jake?
2, maybe 3.
0.002 0.002 inches minus 0.002 inches.
We'll do 3 because we actually want a little bit. But we're talking in the thousands here.
Yeah, not much.
Not much. Yeah,
Cool.
I like 0.003. For this, I can either keep Helix on, or since I'm
Let's-
shaving off so little.
Let's keep it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Double check.
There you go. Way smoother.
Nice.
That's great. Cool. Now I'd say we're ready to do that outside cut one more time. This outside cut stuff should be like old news to you guys at this point, but we'll cut this part free, and we'll call it a wrap. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Cool. Again, using AutoPass and this 5mm bit here. Jake's going to do this in just 3 passes. Should be pretty quick. And again, we wanted to do that inside hole because you want to do those smaller features before you cut the whole thing loose. That's what I always say. Always be careful with, smaller, fiddlier setups. Before you cut the part loose, do all the rest of the work that you can on it. We will show you, though, when we come back to part 3 of this. We didn't grid for this show. We will show you when we set these parts up on Workstation how to re-grid if you need to and realign a piece that you've already cut out so that you can do more work on it. So that'll be pretty cool. Stay tuned for that. That's going to be in 4 weeks, I guess, because we do these every other week. So a little bit of homework between now and the next show. You've got 2 weeks to, follow along with the replay of this video. We're going to post this up on YouTube tomorrow. Follow along with that and go ahead and cut out all your plywood pieces. Should be pretty straightforward. I think we've given everybody the things that they need to succeed cutting this stuff out. What do you think, Jake?
So,
Nice.
and we'll have all this cut out too,
Yeah,
so we can
will.
assemble it.
So let's go to the overhead cam. This is what we've got cut out so far today. Before the next show, we've got one more knob that you guys are going to need to cut out. We've got the top of this thing that you guys are going to need to cut out. The top of this has an outside cut, and it has a helix that needs to match the magnets that you get for this project. And then there's one more part to cut, which if we show that on Origin, that's that big rectangular part that's in the back of this. It's got, again, a big pocket with a chamfer in it.
No, this is a through cut.
Oh, it's a through cut.
Mm-hmm.
That's even easier.
Yeah.
So not even a pocket, it's a through cut, but you are going to want to maybe do a chamfer on that kind of inside the U shape. But you've done all that stuff, so it's just putting the puzzle pieces together. Stay tuned. Come back to this on YouTube when it's up, maybe tomorrow or the day after. Won't be the day after, that's Saturday. It'll be up tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be up for you guys to work on this weekend. Follow along with the instructions, and should be able to get this thing going. What do you think?
Nice double-sided tape coverage.
Good tape coverage.
Thank you, everyone.
See you there.